Christian parenting.
Join us each week as we talk about leading the next generation with faith, purpose, and vision.
This is Rocking It Grand, and you're listening to Chris and Shelley. We don't have to tell you that Christmas is coming and fast. And depending on where you are in your parenting journey, this can be an exciting thing, an overwhelming thing, or both.
But here's the deal. Christmas time doesn't have to be an exhausting survival mode time of year. It can be a season of renewal as we anticipate the birth and celebration of Jesus Christ.
It's for this very reason that Christian Parenting created a brand new resource for parents like you. It's the Read, Ask, Go interactive Advent devotional for the whole family, and we'd love to put one in your hands today.
Created to be used every day from December 1st to the 25th, the Read, Ask, Go devotional experience gives you and your family dedicated time each day this Advent season to read the scripture, ask some questions, and go serve your family, neighbors, and world.
If you're looking for a way to push the easy button on a meaningful spiritual resource for your family this Advent, this is it.
So grab your copy of the Read, Ask, Go devotional experience before they're gone. Just visit cpadvent.org to get your copy today. That's cpadvent.org. Welcome to our Rocking It Grand podcast. If you're just now joining us, like you haven't found us over the last couple of years, I'm Chris Howard and my good friend Shelley Tomlinson. We love our station in life, which is being grandparents to amazing grandkids and still, of course, being parents to our adult children and wives, supporting wives to our husband.
And daughters to our parents.
Yeah, and daughters to our parents.
Friends to our friends. I mean...
we could have just stopped there.
Yeah, I just got tired.
And now we're exhausted.
But speaking of tired, that's a good segue into today's podcast.
Today's podcast is Have Yourself a Stressless Little Christmas.
Oh, wow.
If either one of us were singers, we would sing you a little tune, but no.
Neither of us are singers.
Neither one of us are really singers, so we're not going to. But we all know that as much as we love Christmas and Thanksgiving and New Year's, well, it actually all starts with Halloween and Thanksgiving and Christmas and New Year's. We're at the holiday season. As much as we love everything about it, it is a trigger for stresses.
I said it could be a setup for stressing out.
There you go.
But it doesn't have to be a setup for stressing out. If you think about what you're thinking about, if you go into it intentionally, and if you have a couple good life hacks like the ones that Chris has brought us today to give us some stressless tips, Chris, on having a stressless little Christmas. Now, the first thing that you note for us, and if you're new to the podcast, you may not know this.
First, we need to go over this, okay?
What is this?
The first thing I wanted to talk about is...
you wanted to talk about the reasons for the stress.
Why do we have so much stress? I mean, what are the things that trigger you? And as you're thinking about this in your own personal life, what is the thing that makes you the most craziest? Is it that I can't get that present? And by the way, speaking of that, all over the news right now is if you haven't gotten some of the gifts that you wanted for your kids, you're probably not going to get them because stores are not going to have. So we've got to let go of that. We'll talk about that in some of the tips down here. But there are reasons and there are things that trigger each one of us in a different way. And one of the biggest ones is relationships. Christmas is that time, holiday time, is when if there's a troubled family member in your family, that's when they're going to want to appear, to show up because they need love and support and all that sort of thing. And
before you go on, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I do want y'all to know that we are so committed to unpacking that a little bit more that we are planning a podcast to specifically address just ways that you can make those rough family relationships smoother. If you have someone that's in the family that maybe has married in or, doesn't do life the way you do life, we're wanting to address that because we're getting some emails from folks that want some tips on that. So look for that in the new year.
We're going to cover that for sure. But relationships are probably the biggest stressors of our lives, whether it's Christmas or just a normal day of life, because my daddy taught me a long time ago that if you deal with human beings, you're going to deal with problems. So the only way out of that is just to move someplace far, far away and live by yourself. And you don't want to do that. So relationships, because troubled family members might appear, those more confrontational family members that you don't usually see day to day might be around your supper table. But also it's a time when things like when new changes that have happened in your family just all come up at one time. Perhaps there was a divorce this past year. Perhaps there was a death in the family. Perhaps there's a new baby. Perhaps there's an illness that someone in your family can't get over.
So I'm getting on board with you. Why you want to identify these things so that you can address them. If you don't know the problem, you can't handle the problem.
In our family, those of you who have been listening for a while know that we dealt with divorce of my children. And so I remember that first Christmas distinctly of having to look at our Christmas in a different way. Mm-hmm. And so that relationships and life situations can be just huge stressors.
I like this. And then finances.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, this is a big one because everyone wants to do Christmas and you can get caught in the trap of doing Christmas the way other people do, as big as they do it, or, and put yourself in a financial strain. So a lot of these things, we're going to give you tips on how to address these problems that we're identifying. So finances is a big one.
If the relationships don't get you, the money issues will.
Absolutely. And then you say physical demands.
And then the last one is, I do have a fourth one, but physical demands, because even the most die-hard holiday fanatic can get exhausted. Mm-hmm. And physically, we just can't go another step or to another party or to make that next thing happen or make 12 more cupcakes or whatever. Because what happens during the holiday times is everything else doesn't stop. You still have your job. You still have sports that the kids go to. You still have your family that you take care of. And so the physical demands we put on ourselves during this season are huge, and again, can be a huge stressor for you.
And we can't do without the last one, because I just looked ahead at the fourth one that you brought, Chris, and I do love it. I was going to say earlier, we got off track. In case you're new to the Rocking It Grand podcast, what we like to do is each of us bring topics to the table and things that are on our hearts, and then we just kind of get into this conversation. So when I talk about what Chris has brought, this was your conversation you wanted to have on how to have a stressless little Christmas. And the last one, you have to recognize that could be a problem. And again, then we're going to unpack solutions. But this one I love. Believing the lies of the world instead of the truth of the Bible. The world tells us that more is not just better, it is the best. And we know that is not the Christmas that we want to have.
And when
we want to have one that glorifies
when you start trying
Jesus.
To live that way, then you are going to have more stress in your life, because if you're living like the world, you can't catch up. You can't have the
Nothing's
best
enough.
thing.
Nothing's enough.
Better than the next door neighbor. And these are all such good things to go ahead. We talk a lot on our show about the things that we're saying to us or the things that we want to put into our children. If you still have children at home, this is the time to start teaching them about these things and how to deal with these things too, because even as little people, they're going to encounter that. I can remember Christmases when I was growing up, when all the cousins would come in. Mm-hmm. And while I loved it, there were some certain amount of stressors that came with other kids in our house and sharing bathrooms. My parents were great about teaching us how to open our home to other people. So now we do want to talk a little bit about how we can save ourselves from some of these stressful situations. The first one I say is sometimes it's just as simple as changing your thinking. I know that sounds so silly, but sometimes the word preferences that we put in our head can make a big difference, and we can replace those words. So maybe it says that I said this means to rethink what you think is supposed to happen.
Yeah.
Change that to what you would like to happen if we can get to that.
That is so good. That is not simple, Chris. That's good.
Simple thinking. And even we can use this strategy with our kids if they come up and say, oh, this weekend, can we all go look at Christmas lights? And you can say, you know what, that's such a great idea. And if we can get to that, let's do it. Let's plan that if we can get to that.
That's good.
And so just that little bit of changing takes the pressure off you to say, oh, no, I told the kids we were going to do that. No. We have to do that. This just says, you know what? Right off the bat, we're saying, if we can get to
That's a great
this,
idea if we can get to it. I like that. And we also talk about not comparing ourselves to others. Even we've already mentioned it in this podcast, other people's Christmases or the gifts maybe that they can buy. But here's a different way of looking at that. And it is that you can look at other people if you choose the people that you want to look at for encouragement. So if you are a person that is prone to stressing out at Christmas and worrying about all the details, find someone
but you have
who's
a super
not.
Calm friend.
Maybe your friend just is having an easier time, but you look around and you identify the people that are managing, I call it to walk with the holy through Christmas, to just realize the moment that this holiday is about celebrating Christ's birth. And if you see someone that is holding on to that and they're modeling that, well, have a conversation with them. Right. Ask them some tips. Why are they able to do this? Imitate them. Copy them, mimic them, because we can learn by example. Chris and I were talking just earlier before we went on the podcast about a trait that she and I both have that we identified that really when we were growing up, I don't remember anyone teaching me.
We concluded it's because we're not firstborn.
And I think firstborns have more of a problem with it. But Chris and I concluded that we learned that you didn't have to touch the stove to see if it was hot. You could watch someone else get burned and decide you didn't want to touch the stove. So we're saying this in the light of being stressless. Find someone who's not stressing and learn from them.
This is kind of a funny example about that, but I learned this lesson or was reinforced when my youngest daughter wanted to be in a beauty pageant. We were not beauty pageant people. We had never done that. And she just one day said she'd like to be in one. And I thought, okay, what's the harm of that? She was 17. She had a great head on her shoulders. Let's just try it. So we entered at one in Bastrop, Louisiana. She came in second place, was amazing. Afterwards, I said, Ashley, how did you even know to do that or walk on it? She said, oh, I've seen beauty pageants before, so I just copied what they did.
See?
And I thought, that is really smart. We can do that. We're smart people. We can look at someone, and I've done this too. Again, not in a jealous way. It's in a way to be encouraged and to learn
from them.
Like we learn from other people. My daughter Corey is so calm. I've learned that from her. I'm like, okay, I'm just going to channel my inner Corey.
Yeah.
And
how about a plug for my daughter-in-law? My daughter-in-law goes through life at a different pace than I do. I'm like, all over everywhere. And Carrie has this different pace. Kind of like Corey's. She goes a little bit slower, and she's younger than I am, and she is my daughter-in-law, but I have learned from Carrie.
Just watching. Yes.
Just watching her and saying, I want to be a little slower, a little calmer.
I need to slow down.
Some people that know me might think I need to watch more.
We need a little Carrie in our life. This is Chris from Rocking It Grand. I love the Dwell app, and I'm really enjoying the sleep stories. It's so cool that you and your kids and grandkids can set the Dwell timer and fall asleep to biblical stories like Jacob's or Ruth's or Noah. And guess what? There are a number of narrators, which means you get to choose the voice you fall asleep to. To get started with Dwell, go to dwellapp.io/rockingitgrand to get your free trial, and then 10% off a yearly subscription or 33% off Dwell for life. All right, the third thing I say is entrust others. This one, again, seems so simple, but moms, we're terrible at this. We're so terrible at turning over some job to somebody else in our household. And one suggestion that I used to do when my kids were little, and I love this, you just create a little jar of things that need to be done and make it fun. Let them pull out one and say, oh, I've got to vacuum. What do you have? Oh, I've got to clean a toilet. Or those kinds of things, and just kind of make it fun. But during those holiday times, where it's a little more stressful, you have a little less time, use your family. It's okay. Our kids need to do more things around the house. They really do.
They do.
And it doesn't hurt them one bit. In fact, it helps them so much, because one day those little bitties that you have around your house, those 6, 7, and 8-year-olds right now, are going to go to college. And they're going to have to know how to do those things. So
absolutely.
Create a jar, make it fun, let everybody take a job for the evening and help you out a little bit.
Yeah, and here's one. We talked about identifying the problem earlier of financial strain and what it can do at the holidays. So here's the solution, and that is to recognize the reality of your financial situation.
That's right.
Recognize that you can't give everyone everything.
Right.
And you're doing your kids a favor, a huge favor, when you let them begin to be a part of those family finances and understand that even Santa Claus has his limits. So they're going to be saying, I want this and I want that. Well, sit down with them. You could even have a fun night where they look through Amazon. It used to be the holiday catalog. Remember Sears?
Circle thing.
You circled the Sears catalog. I almost said that. But then I thought, no, we don't really do that. So you can go to Amazon or wherever you go. Let them look to their heart's content.
Right.
Let them put things in your shopping cart that you may not intend to buy because you're trying to figure out your finances. But while they're saying, I want this and I want that, and they're putting it in the cart, you have an opportunity to have a conversation with them and say, I hear you, and I do think that's cool too, but if we get this, we might not get that, and just talk to them about the realities and let them understand that now. And you're setting them up, like Chris just said, when they go to college, they're going to need to know how to handle their finances when they have a home of their own. So don't hide that and just act like, no, we have, deep pockets and we can do everything that we need to do. Bring them into the conversation and accept the reality of your financial situation.
And hey, even if you have deep pockets, it's not a good idea that kids get everything they want.
It's not.
That's a principle we want to teach.
Absolutely.
From a young age, that we don't get everything we want. We choose some things, and then mom and dad will make a decision about what's the best for our family and for you as the child.
That's good.
So, again, you're in control. Okay, here's another really important one. We talked about that relationships can be a huge stressor during the holiday season or like really any day of life. But the holiday time, remember this, relative happiness is the best. Because it's not a time to solve all the past issues with family members over the holidays. That's not the time. Holidays are a time for unity, not war, a time for fun, not fighting. So again, this is like a thinking thing. Just make that decision to let go some of those things that cause disharmony. And everybody, my mom used to say this all the time, everybody can be kind for a short time. You just choose kindness over harshness. You choose happiness over fighting. You choose to be to have your home be a home of peace. That way, everybody is in harmony and everybody has a happy time. It's not a time to solve family issues at all.
I'm going to throw another one in here. The next one, and I want you to speak to it, is setting those clear boundaries. But before you do, I was thinking about how, to have a stressless Christmas, sometimes you just really need to key in on that word less. So that's less activities, that's less going, and just look at all the things that are available for your family to do during the holidays and just choose less. My daughter lives in Houston, Texas, and of course we love to have Jessica and Patrick and the two boys, Grant and Connor, in for every single family event. Of course we do. But it's a 7-hour drive and they have their own schools and their own activities. And Jessica is such a wise little mama, Chris. She has in the last few years just really began to set boundaries of what she can do and have a healthy family. So they can't come in for every Thanksgiving and every Easter. And so she chooses, and she lets me know ahead of time, this is your Thanksgiving. Yay, we get to be in. Or maybe she's with Patrick's parents. But there's a time before that she would try to go to our house at Christmas and his house.
Right. Yes.
And our house at Easter and Patrick's house. And she was always on the road, and it wasn't good for the boys. And so Jessica began to say, no, we can't travel the entire week of December, a month of December. So she began to make wise choices. Mm-hmm. And that's what I'm asking you to do to lower the stress in your holidays, in your Christmas. Choose less, and you'll be happy for it.
And then, like Shelley has done, it's not just choose less for yourself, it's be open to them having to choose less.
Mm-hmm.
When I'm sure when Jessica told Shelley that her plan wasn't to come.
I don't like it.
She's not the thing you want.
Right.
But you have to be supportive of those people in your family who are choosing what they need to do for their family.
Right.
And we have a really big family, those of you who know our family. But we've always tried, even in, like, we'll do a group text and we're having a big family thing. We always say, if you can't make it, we love you.
Blessings.
And we'll see you next time.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah.
I mean, just because you just cannot.
We take photos, and our whole tagline is, we enjoyed those that were able to come and miss those that couldn't.
And miss those that couldn't.
That's
exactly
it.
Right.
That's it.
And we have not. It's not beyond us to Photoshop somebody in who wasn't there.
I tried that this past weekend. I was on a speaking engagement. Did you see that? I tried to Photoshop a speaker in. I don't think I did so well.
We Photoshopped Sadie and Christian and John Reed into the family photo. But that's okay. They couldn't be there, and so we're like, go have fun. We'll just
have fun with it.
That's right, exactly right. It. But also on this clear boundaries, if you have college-age kids, also remember to set those boundaries in your home when they're home for the holiday, especially if you have little ones still. I come from a family of 6, and so when my sister and I were at college, we had 4 younger siblings at home. And my mom was so good about welcoming us back. Mm-hmm. But also we had to keep the family rules because we had little people watching us, Mm-hmm. And so I learned that from her on how she was great and generous, and we were always welcome home, but she expected us to do our share of the work around the house. I mean, we came back in at college and we went right to washing dishes or loading the dishwasher or helping mom here. There was 6 kids.
Right back on the step.
That's what you do. Yeah, you just do. And so, don't be afraid you're going to run your college kids off.
No.
By sticking to the things that make your house run smoothly.
And then you mentioned here, Chris, as one of the last suggestions on having a stressless little Christmas, to take a little bit of time to think through those gatherings and what will make them enjoyable for everyone and the different ages and the different people that are going to be there. And so one way, and I think we may have mentioned this on a podcast before, I always like to have a puzzle table going on.
Yes.
I have a table set up with a puzzle, and I may have an age-appropriate puzzle, a younger puzzle that's easier for younger ages, but just something that can facilitate conversation around this puzzle, and it can make it more enjoyable. I'm sure you have other ideas like that, but just having simple ideas for things, activities that the family can participate in.
I always, if I'm hosting Thanksgiving with our big family or whether it's Christmas, I always have coloring sheets out so when the little ones come in, they can go right to something, or I have the bin of toys right there for those kids so that the adults that come can have just a few breathing minutes. They can say, oh, look, Two Mama's got.
And so you already have that set up for them. And so that's a very easy progression from getting out of the car to the kids seeing something that they can put their little hands on quickly. That's good.
Hobby Lobby's always got 40% off anything at any given time. So I will, whether it's September or in the summer, if I see some little Christmas things, I'll just go ahead and get them and put them in my little Christmas goodie bag ready for the next party that we have. So that's our list of things to help you have a little bit of less stress. So to have a stressless Christmas this year.
And of
Hopefully
course,
something
to keep first things first. So we really hope that in your home you make the birth of Jesus Christ the center of your activities and your celebration, so that we realize that this is when Christ came to earth and this is what we're celebrating. And that's
we may not get
top way.
We won't have another show before Christmas, so I have to share with you. If you have little, do a little nativity thing with your little kids. Some of our most precious memories through my years of being a parent and a grandparent is our little plays that we put on. Mm-hmm. And I had all the little things made for them to wear and the little cradle and all that kind of stuff. And there were years when they were little that I would have to do all the narrating. Then as they got older, they could say their little lines, So we always start our celebration with some kind of a party for Jesus, and
I love that.
Remembering why we're here before we start the other.
Did y'all ever hide baby Jesus from the nativity?
No, we did not.
That is the most fun activity that I did with my kids. So I had nativities all over the house, because there was a time when I mentioned one time in my big Southern family that I like nativity sets. And when you do that in my family, you just immediately have a collection, because everyone's listening. They're like, oh, Shelley likes nativity sets. So I had tons of them. And it was somewhere during those years that we had this one set that I began to hide the baby Jesus in different places in the house, and my kids would wake up the next morning, and that was the goal, was to find Jesus and put him back in the manger. So that was a cute little idea.
Yeah, good idea. Well, that's our show for the day. Thank you for joining us today on Rocking It Grand podcast. We'll see you next time. Have an amazing holiday season, and we'll be back next year.